What is up guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Dr. Hummus Tech, and you know what, the flagship killer space is getting very interesting, and in today's video what we are going to do is compare two very excellent phones over here. And in the first corner we have the Realme GT, and in the other corner this is one of my favorite phones here in 2021. This is the Poco F3. So what we're going to do is just going to go through the key specs and features on both of these two phones, compare them side by side with each other, and of course help you to decide which phone would be the best for you by the end of this video. So without further ado, let's just get right into it. So now let's talk about the prices on both of these two phones. Starting with the Poco F3, you can get one new set for about 400 USD, which is about 1,699 ringgit. But it does go on sale pretty much very often, about almost every month. And you can get one for about 350 USD, which is about 1,499 ringgit. Going on to the Realme GT, so far I only seen one sale when it was first launched here in Malaysia. Back then I can get this for about 500 USD, which is about 2,099 ringgit here in Malaysia. Now starting with the build and design on the Realme GT, I gotta say it looks really slick and very cool and very rugged with the leather finish over here. As you can see here with the yellow variant that I purchased over here, it looks just really awesome, really like a sports car. And yes, you do get your glass on the front and also a plastic framework on the sides. Overall, in terms of the design, I gotta say I really like this here in 2021. It's very new, very refreshing to find this in a flagship phone. Going on to the Poco F3, it does have more of a minimalistic look, very simple and very nice design. You do get your Gorilla Glass 5 on the front and on the back. So yes, if you do want more of an elegant design, I think the Poco F3 does the job for you. But if you want more of the rugged design, I think the Realme GT does fit that bill very nice. In terms of the size and weight to it, both of them are pretty much very equal, but over here with the Realme GT, it is a little bit smaller. So yes, if you have small hands like me, this one would I think be a better fit for you. So in terms of the display, both the Poco F3 and Realme GT do have an AMOLED display, but over here on the Realme GT, it does have a Super AMOLED display. Both of them do have a good amount of brightness even in broad day sunlight, but what I gotta say is the Realme GT I find does have the better resolution compared to the Poco F3. The colors are a bit more contrasty and sharper compared to the Poco F3. And talking about the refresh rate, I do find that on the Realme GT, it is a little bit smoother and faster compared to the Poco F3. Here again, I'm going to show you some content in 4K and let you decide for yourself which one does look better. So both the Realme GT and Poco F3 do have a nice stereo speaker setup, but over here on the Poco F3 you do have an audio jack, so yes, you can plug in your cables here with the Realme GT. Right now I'm going to show you some content up here and let you decide for yourself which one does sound better. So next thing we'll talk about here is the internal hardware. So over here in the Poco F3, you do have your Snapdragon 870 with 8 gigs of RAM and 256 gigs of storage. Whereas here on the Realme GT, you can get the 12 gigs of RAM and 256 gigs of storage as well. In terms of just everyday performance, both of them do a really good job. Very fast, very snappy, and in terms of gaming, both of them do a really good job as well. But of course, here with the Realme GT, I think it's the problem with the Snapdragon 888. It tends to heat up more compared to the Poco F3. But overall, in terms of just performance, in terms of just raw performance, you're not going to go wrong with any of them. Because if you want more of the raw power, I think the Realme GT over here does the better job. But in terms of the better heat management, in terms of the battery and all this other stuff, I think here with the Poco F3 and the Snapdragon 870, it has the overall better balance. Over here, in terms of the battery size, there's not much to differentiate both of them. Here on the Realme GT, you have about 4500. Here on the Poco F3, you have about 4520, so not much difference at all. But in terms of the performance, I gotta say, the Poco F3 actually does a much better job compared to the Realme GT. In terms of battery drainage, I think the Realme GT here does have more of it compared to the Poco F3. I do charge my Realme GT pretty much quite often compared to the Poco F3 over here. So yes, if you guys want the better battery performance, I think over here with the Poco F3, that is your better choice. If we're talking about screen on time, this one does give me a good nice 6 to 7 hours, whereas over here it does give me about 4.5 to about 5 hours plus, which is a little bit disappointing if you look at the specs on both of these two phones. But of course, when it comes to charging, the Realme GT over here ultimately wins it. 65 watts to charge up your phone from 0 all the way to 100% in just over half an hour. If you look at this with the Poco F3 over here, it only offers 33 watts. It is still pretty decent, but of course if you compare to the Realme GT, this one over here can charge up from 0 all the way to 100% in just about an hour. So next thing here I want to talk about is the software side of things, which I think is very important when you're choosing a new phone. Over here on the Poco F3, it's running your MIUI 12.5, whereas on the Realme GT, it's running your Realme UI 2.0. In terms of the customization and in terms of the software side of things, and of course your personalization, both of them do offer you a good amount of customization. Over here you can change your always on display, you can always change your wallpapers and all this other stuff, your font displays and all this stuff. Also as well with the Poco F3, which is not lacking behind, both of them do offer you a lot of features as well, which is really cool. On the Realme GT, I do like this side panel over here, which is really helpful. Over here you do have the quick ball feature as well, so yes, both of them do trade blows pretty well in terms of the software side of things. But of course with the Realme GT, I think it's a little bit too heavy over here. It also does affect the battery performance. Over here on the Poco F3, it does have your bloatware as well. It does have certain ads that will pop out here and there. So yes, it's not the perfect software in terms of the stock Android experience. Both of them do offer you tons of customizations with their software. So in terms of it, I don't think you want to go wrong with any of them if you just want to go crazy with your phone. Yes, I gotta say, in terms of the software, I do prefer it on the Poco F3 because I've been using a lot of Xiaomi devices, but I was very impressed with the Realme UI 2.0, which does offer you a lot of stuff as well. Yes, the Realme GT does have a little bit more bloatware compared to the Poco F3. It did have a lot of pre-installed apps which I would never use, stuff like Amazon app and all this other stuff built into the phones over here. You don't find that here with the Poco F3, which is a little bit cleaner compared to the Realme GT. And if we're talking about the software updates when it comes to both of these two phones, they are not the best when it comes to consistent updates. But of course with the Poco F3, they had some rumor that it will support for at least 2 years of major software updates. Over here on the Realme GT, it's not yet confirmed if they're going to support it for up to 2 years. But of course with the hardware, it's not surprising if it does. So yes, if you want to use this phone for a long time and you want to get consistent updates, both of these two phones will not fit that bill for you. Also, one thing to note is that the Poco F3 does offer you an IP53 rating compared to the Realme GT, which doesn't have one. And in terms of the connection, over here you do have a Bluetooth 5.1 and this one can support up to Bluetooth 5.2. Both of them do have your Wi-Fi 6 and also both of them do have your NFC support. So lastly over here, we're going to talk about the cameras on both of these two phones. Starting with the selfie, the Poco F3 does have a 20 megapixel shooter, whereas on the Realme GT, it does have a 16 megapixel selfie shooter. The Realme GT does have a 64 megapixel dual autofocus main lens, an 8 megapixel ultra wide and a 2 megapixel macro shooter. The Poco F3 does have a 48 megapixel dual autofocus main lens, an 8 megapixel ultra wide and a 5 megapixel macro shooter. So now I'm going to show you some shots taken on both of these two phones, and do let me know in the comments down below which one does look better. So that is it between the Poco F3 and the Realme GT. To be honest, both of them are really good, but if I had to pick one, personally, I would go for the Poco F3. It does give you the more balanced value to performance ratio compared to the Realme GT. But of course, if you want the ultimate performance between both of these two phones, I think here with the Realme GT, you are definitely going to get that. So that is it. If you guys want to see more of these type of videos, do click the like and smash the subscribe button down below for more videos like this in the future. Do also follow me in my social as well on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and also here on YouTube at Dr. Hammerstack. So that is it. This is Dr. Hammerstack. Stay safe, take care, and wash those hands.